दोनों ही केस
राइट।
में यू मस्ट रिमेंबर कि इसका पर्पस क्या है. Why are we studying these two models? And there we can look at more models also, but these two will give you a general idea. See, basically क्या है, it is important for a company to calculate its cost of capital. You remember ये cost of capital के context में था. So company
करेक्ट।
has to calculate its cost of capital. Now, the capital is composed of two things. One is the debt, one is the equity. Now, as far as debt is concerned, generally speaking, debt is at a fixed rate, or even if it is a floating rate, it is easy to know. ये पता लगता ही है ना कि कितना क्या इंटरेस्ट रेट है. It is a part of the terms and conditions of the debt, so it's very easy for any company to know कि भाई मेरा cost of debt क्या है. Problem आता है in calculating the cost of equity. तो कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी जब हम करते हैं, देन वी हैव अ नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स टू अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाट इज हाउ विल यू कैलकुलेट कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी. मतलब क्या ऐसा चीज हुआ. सी, डिविडेंड्स कैन नॉट बी द कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी. डिविडेंड जो है वो तो आपकी मर्जी पर है कि आप देते हैं या नहीं देते हैं. सो दैट कैन नॉट बी द कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी अलोन. अच्छा, डिविडेंड्स भी आपका जो होगा कंपेयर्ड विद मार्केट प्राइस, what will be the cost, it's difficult to understand. So this model, then there is another factor. Anybody who invests in your company, that person also is concerned about the risk, because market investments में there is always a risk. तो जिस एंड एक चीज और आप लोग जानते हैं कि if let's say there are 5 companies A B C D E. Now, investing in A has a certain level of risk. Investing in B has a different level of risk. Investing in C has a third level of risk. Each company has a rather unique level of risk. So how do we calculate that risk? How do we know what is the risk of this company? Because the risk influences the return. And the return that the investor expects, that is the cost for the company. वही है ना, जैसे यू गो टू अ बैंक, बैंक आपको एक फिक्स डिपॉजिट देती है. तो यू एक्सपेक्ट, द बैंक टेल्स यू कि भाई आई विल गिव यू 8%. You are expecting a return of 8%, interest rate of 8%. And for the bank, that 8% is a cost. Other side of the coin. वो उसके लिए कॉस्ट है, आपके लिए जो है वो रिटर्न है. इन दोनों चीज को ध्यान में रख के लेट अस ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड this once again. I'll start with the dividend growth model, and then I will move on. I'll show it to you in Excel, and then let us just look at the formula first. Just have a look at this simple formula. Never mind what is written on the slide right now. That is not so important. That when I send this to you, you can have a look at that. Just focus on this. See, KE is the cost of equity. Now, dividend expected at the end of financial year, मतलब next year. इस साल जो भी डिविडेंड हमने दिया था, उसके बाद वाले साल में what will be the dividend after 1 year. So इसलिए 1 है ये. This is the current market price, and this is the expected growth in the dividends. ठीक है. Now, if you take this, what will you get? You will get 4.5, ये वाला, divided by 90 plus 0.08 is equal to 13%. कहाँ से आया? The price, current market price of my share is 90. Dividend which the company is going to give in the next year is 450. The growth is of that dividend. So whatever it was this year, it is 8% more than that next year. That growth is 8%. So DIV, dividend 4.5 divided by the market price 90 and plus the growth rate, you will get 13%. Okay. Now let us look at this in an in a Excel sheet and then try to see how this works. It will give you a better idea, I think, then. Here it is. So let's look at this here, the Gordon growth model. This is more or less the same as the dividend growth model. It is just looking at this from the investor's point of view. So how is it useful? It helps to determine the present value of a stock. Remember, any model which is based on dividends, what is it doing? It is looking at the future dividends and it is discounting these dividends, adding up all the dividends and giving you the present value of all those dividends. Now, in the case of the Gordon growth model, what it is doing is, it is assuming that the growth will be at a constant rate. The company has a business model that's stable.
Sir, you are not audible.
Sorry, I think something happened. I just got disconnected. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, sir.
So I'll come back there. So here's our Excel sheet. So right. So basically, what is the model assuming? That this is a company which has a stable business model. That means whatever products it is making, those products are selling in the market comfortably. There is a normal growth and the rate of growth of the dividends is also normal. It has stable financial leverage. That means what will be the rate at which it will get a loan from a bank? See, basically what happens is when a bank gives a loan, the bank gives the loan based on the risk perception it has of the company. Like suppose a company comes, let's say ki Tata Motors comes to a bank and wants to take a loan. So what the bank will want to see is they will take their credit rating model and they will begin to see how risky is it to give a loan to Tata. Now, if they find that it is, let's say, moderately risky to give a loan to Tata Motors, given all the challenges that it faces, then the price of the loan will not be the lowest possible. Let's say the best borrower, the borrower who gets a AAA rating, where the bank feels that its risk is the lowest, that particular borrower will get its best rate of interest. In the case of a loan, the best rate of interest is what? The lowest rate. So just for the sake of this class, let us suppose that the best rate that the bank is willing to offer is 10%. So it will offer 10% to those borrowers which are AAA. These are good borrowers. The bank feels that it is less risky to lend to them, so it's going to offer 10%. But if there is a borrower who has a higher level of risk, it will offer, let's say, 11% or 12%. So that because that company is more risky, it will pay more for interest. Now, every year, the bank looks at the company again. During the last year, how well did the company perform? Is its credit risk rating the same as it was last year? Is it still a AAA company? Let's say it was a AAA company. Is it still AAA, the best? Or has it deteriorated to AA? If it has gone down to AA, the interest rate will go up. Now, in this model, what the assumption being made is that it has stable financial leverage. That means that the company is considered to be stable. So if the bank's risk perception was AAA in year one, it will remain that. If the bank's perception was AA in year one, it will remain the same throughout. And whatever free cash flow the company has, this will be paid as dividends. Forget about this point, free cash flow for the moment. Deepti, you might know this word better. So, but I'm sure that Vivek and Prerna will have a problem with this. But we'll tackle this when we get to our account section. But meanwhile, these are the four conditions. Now, what happens is, in this formula, P is equal to D divided by K minus G. P is the value of the stock. D is the dividend receivable next year. K is the expected return. And G is the growth rate. Now, this expected return, how do I get the expected return? So the expected return is the return that are available for similar stocks at the same level of risk in the market. For example, if I were to make this investment in a company which is similar to this, what would be the return that the market is offering for that? So you can average out a few companies and find out what this rate of return is. In fact, when we do the CAPM, you will be seeing how this is done. Now, the growth of the dividend, in this case, we are assuming 10. The growth of the dividend is, rate of dividend is 4%. So the amount of dividend the company will pay next year is 2. Now, if I want to calculate the present value of the stock or the stock price, Vivek, this will interest you. If I want to calculate the correct stock price, so what I will do is, I will take this 2, this is the dividend amount, divided by the expected return expected by the company minus the growth rate of dividend, which comes to, in this case, it comes to rupees 33. Correct? Now, in this particular case, if the stock is selling at a higher price than this in the market, suppose the actual market price of the stock, the current market price of the stock is, let us say, 40 rupees. And here you find that the present value is 33. Then in your mind, you can say that the stock is overpriced. जितनी इसकी actual कीमत होनी चाहिए based on the dividend that it is paying, based on this model, it is over that. So if I invest in this, I am buying it at a slightly higher rate than otherwise. If it is lower than 33, then I can say that it is undervalued. That means it is selling at a cheap price. The value of the stock is higher, but it is selling at a cheaper price. Now, the calculation for this goes like this. See, You can just take an Excel sheet and you can write it like this. The dividend is 2 rupees. Expected rate return on K is 0.10. The growth of dividend is 0.4. K minus G is 10 minus 4 is 6. And now if you do this calculation, C16, this divided by 10 minus 4, you will get this particular rupees 33. This is the simplest way to find out what is the present value of a stock. Now, how does this help me to calculate cost of equity? I can calculate the cost of equity by taking this formula, and from that, I can get the actual cost of K. See, P, the price is equal to D1 divided by K minus G. Everyone, please focus on this here, on this particular sheet here. Now, if I solve this equation to find out what is K equal to, is not so difficult. See, this is pretty when you go to, I think, class 8 or 9 or maybe even before. P is equal to D1, dividend of the first year, divided by the expected rate of return minus growth. So, P, K minus G is equal to D1. See, simple. P, you take this, if you do it on a piece of paper and you show it properly, you'll see this. D1, K minus G is D1 over P. Therefore, K is equal to D1 divided by P plus G. Now, if you do this little exercise, you will see that it is very easy to calculate the price. So, in our example, dividend was 2, the market price was 33, the dividend in year 1 is 2.12, and D1 over market price is 0.06 plus growth rate 6 plus the growth rate of 4, you will get 10. So basically, what is the cost of equity using this model? It becomes 10. So it's a very simple sort of thing to do. Like we said, in this, did you understand, both of you? Three of you, sorry. Prerna,
Yes,
Deepti,
sir.
and Vivek. Yeah, good. Now, basically what happens is that this model, the shortcoming in this model is that it is making certain assumptions that are not exactly true for all companies. So the company's business model is stable. And these days of uncertainty, it is very difficult to have complete stability right till the end. Because this model is assuming that those dividends are being paid in perpetuity, right up till the end. अंत तक यही रेट देती रहेगी company. It grows at a constant rate. That means because the business model is stable, because the sales and everything else is stable, therefore, the growth will also be constant. This is the basic assumption. दूसरा, इस कंपनी का फाइनेंशियल लेवरेज स्टेबल होगा. दैट मीन्स ये हमेशा बैंक से लोन ले पाएगी, या ये अगर बॉन्ड्स के थ्रू लोन लेना चाहती है, इफ इट वांट्स टू रेज loans through bonds, money through bonds, people will give it that money at the rate which it is offering, because it is considered to be a stable company. And it will pay dividends, the free cash flow, whatever is available, it will pay as dividends. And this dividend amount is stable. So given these assumptions, if I do this, I can figure out see, you can look at it from both sides. From the point of view of the investor, you can use this model to find out the actual present value of the stock. So you can compare that with the market price of that stock. If you find that if the actual present value is more than the market value, then in that case, good for you. You are in a position to buy. If you find it is less than the market value, then you know that the stock is overvalued. So this is the one way of understanding what is my cost of equity. Okay. Now, I hope this gives you an idea about exactly how this thing works. Now, there are other models which I have not taken up here because that is not the purpose we go into. You'll get bored then, because then it will become more of a class on different models. It will be very different from the normal class that we have. But if you want, we can have a look at sometime later. If you want it, I'll do it sometime. That would be a dividend discount model. Like what will happen if the dividends are different from year to year? 1 year he gives 4 rupees, another he gives 6, another 8, another 10. Then what we'll do? Now, in those cases, what is done normally is that you take the average of the dividends which have been paid in the last 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, and then use that as the basis. That will be the basis for your expected return. This is what the company actually gives in the past. This is what it will give in the future. Some assumptions which we are making now, those will continue to remain the same even in that particular model. So basically, I will send you that Excel sheet also. So when you look at this, look at the Excel sheet also. When you look at the Excel sheet and you look at this, I think it will give you a good idea of how this thing actually is working. Now, this part here, I think we can avoid this. We don't have a need to actually do this. This is another model similar to that. But this one here, the cost is based on this plus G factor. I think it's the same thing. It's just, you're just taking this and using the Gordon growth model, and you are putting the equation in this form. Let's avoid this particular slide. It will only help to confuse you. Just keep what we studied in the Excel. Keep that in mind. And
Right.
we will move to the next one. So in the Gordon growth model or the dividend growth model that we saw, one of the things which it does not take care of is the market risk. See, whenever you make an investment in the market, whether it's a mutual fund or whether it's equity, one thing which you know always is that there is a risk in investing in the market because the prices of the shares are volatile. They keep going up and down depending on the perceptions of the investors. And those perceptions are not always based on financial parameters. Those perceptions of the investors are quite often based on their own, let's say, their own personal assessment of how good or bad the company is. So it's a very subjective decision. But since lakhs and lakhs of investors are doing it, what the principle is that since the overall, the demand and supply of a particular share determines its price, and the demand for the share is based on, and at the price at which it is demanded is based on the perceptions of lakhs and lakhs of people. Whatever comes at the end, the final price, that price is considered to factor in all the risks. So the market risk is something which the dividend growth model did not take into account. But that is taken into account by the CAP, the capital asset pricing model. In fact, the main thing about this model, the good thing here is that it looks at a relationship between the stock in question, the stock in which you want to invest, and the risk in the market itself. So in the market, like, okay, let's look at this, in a slightly, let's go step by step here. So it provides a method to determine the relationship between the return and the risk of an equity share. The risk of an equity share is determined in relation to its performance as compared with the market as a whole. That means suppose I take a company. I take any company, let us call it Ashok Paints. Now this particular company, what are the returns of this company as compared to the returns of the market? And what are the returns of the market? The return of the market is captured through either you take one of the indexes, or if you want to be very correct, one of the indices. You can either take Nifty 50 or you can take the Sensex. So you look at over 1 year, how well did the Sensex do? What was the growth? Let's say you start in financial year, the last financial year, go through the whole year and see how well did the Sensex do. What was the reading of this, the value of the Sensex on 1st April, let's say 1st April 2023, and what was the reading as on 31st March 2024. You have one full year. Look at the values of the Sensex on both these dates, and you can get an average, and you can see what exactly has been the growth here. Now, if I look at this growth, and now I look at what has been the growth in the share price of the company, how has that company done? And when I look at these two things, I will be able to see whether both are moving in the same direction, both are moving in opposite directions, or both are moving exactly together. And that particular relationship is captured by a Greek symbol known as beta, and that is used in the CAPM. So I'll try to show you to the best of my ability how this works. So the first thing to remember is when we say market, remember we are talking about either the BSE Sensex or the NSE Nifty. So both of them have a value which moves up and down based on the prices of the shares that compose it. So 30 shares compose the let's say the Sensex. So what is the Sensex actually? It reflects the ways in which these 30 shares move up or down. And this is a proxy for the market as a whole. So the question to ask is, does the share which you are interested in move in the same direction as the market? The relationship between the way the share moves over a period of time and the way the market moves in the same period is called the beta. Don't worry about the word. Just look at what it means. जो शेयर जिसमें आप इंटरेस्टेड हैं, इसका ग्रोथ और मार्केट का ग्रोथ, इन दोनों में क्या रिलेशनशिप है? अगर 8% मार्केट है, आपका शेयर भी क्या 8% बढ़ता है? अगर आपका भी 8% बढ़ता है, तो 8 divided by 8, you'll say that it is 1. Money is the same as the market. लेकिन मार्केट is 8, आपका शेयर है 10. Then it changes. That means 1 point something हो गया है. मार्केट is 8, आपका शेयर है 4. इसका मतलब है कि मार्केट से बहुत नीचे रहता है. And the same thing for both up and down. तो ये वाला जो चीज है, ये बीटा जो निकलेगा इसका, हर एक कंपनी का नेचुरली ग्रोथ रेट्स when compared with the market will be different. And since the growth of the company as compared to the market will be different, the beta for each company will be different. Now, beta को I'll show you कैसे calculate होता है, just so that you understand कि क्या इसका calculation का तरीका है. But broadly speaking, आपको ये मेहनत करने की जरूरत है नहीं। बीटा किसी भी कंपनी का यू कैन फाइंड आउट ऑन एनी ऑफ द ट्रेडिंग साइट्स, वो आपको बता देगा कि व्हाट द बीटा इज। सो बीटा इज द रिस्क ऑफ द मार्केट एज अ होल, इसको आप याद रखिए। द रिस्क ऑफ द मार्केट का जो न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू है वो है एक, वन, उसको हम एक मानते हैं। तो बेसिकली अगर मार्केट एक है तो हम क्या एक से ज्यादा हैं या एक से कम? दिस इज माई पॉइंट। मार्केट क्या है? ऑल शेयर्स लिस्टेड ऑन द स्टॉक एक्सचेंज। आप इसमें से यू टेक द बीएसई और द एनएसई, टोटल में देर आर 7,400 कंपनीज, but it is represented by 30 stocks in the case of Sensex and 50 stocks in the case of Nifty. इसका बेस वैल्यू, जस्ट एक little tidbit of information, the base value of the Sensex was taken at 100 on 1st April 1979. Today it is more than 57, क्या इससे कहीं ज्यादा है आजकल। Growth in the Sensex on a year-to-year basis can be measured. For example, 31st December 2020, Sensex was 47,896. Today it is 57,000. The yearly growth is about 19%. उस पीरियड में 2021 में
currently is 80,000.
हाँ, तो अगर 80 आज है तो एक साल पहले आप देखिए क्या। सपोज यू लुक एट इट 1 year ago and then you try to see what is the growth rate.
1
बताइए
year
कितना था?
BSE Sensex 67.
हाँ, तो 67 था, आज 80 है, तो 13 बढ़ गया, तो 13 डिवाइडेड बाय 67, आपका आज भी 19% का ही ग्रोथ।
Yeah, 19.29% growth.
हाँ, आज भी वही चल रहा है। ये उस
Yes.
पीरियड में जब जो एग्जांपल यहाँ दिया हुआ है उस समय भी 19 था। नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज कि आपको ये 19% ग्रोथ दे रही है, व्हाट इज द ग्रोथ ऑफ योर कंपनी? और ये तो हम लोगों ने एक साल का लिया ना। सपोज वी, टू मेक दिस मोर एक्यूरेट, वी कैन टेक मोर ईयर्स, ईयर टू
5
ईयर भी
years.
इसको देखा जा सकता है। वी कैन कैलकुलेट द एवरेज ऑफ ऑल द ग्रोथ फॉर द लास्ट, लेट्स से 5 or 6 years, and then we can get the same data for the stock which we are interested in, and then I'll show you how the formula works. The share price of an individual company also moves up and down on a daily basis. ये भी चल रहा है, ये भी, both of them are moving. Now, what is the relationship between the movement? कंपनी वाले शेयर्स की, शेयर प्राइस की और सेंसेक्स की. This is what we are going to look at. Now, scenario 1, पहला सिनेरियो ये हो, और सेंसेक्स के शेयर जो वैल्यू है, बोथ ऑफ देम आर मूविंग इन द सेम डायरेक्शन. ठीक है, अगर दोनों, जब सेंसेक्स ऊपर जाती है तो आपके कंपनी के शेयर की कीमत भी ऊपर जाती है. इफ दिस इज हैपनिंग, देन यू से दैट द वेरिएशन इज इन द सेम डायरेक्शन, सो इट इज अ पॉजिटिव कोवेरियंस. ठीक है. दूसरा हो सकता है कि जब सेंसेक्स ऊपर जाती है तो आपके जिस कंपनी में आप इंटरेस्टेड हैं उसके शेयर प्राइस नीचे चली जाती है. सो दे आर मूविंग इन ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शंस. इफ दिस हैपेंस, इट इज अ नेगेटिव कोवेरियंस. सो हाउ डू वी कैलकुलेट द कोवेरियंस? दिस इज प्योरली just as a general knowledge thing I'm telling you. It is not necessary for you to try to do this. So these are the different things which are used. X1 is the company which you are interested in. This is your company. Let's say it is Tata Motors. XM is the mean, the average of the X values. Y is the Y value in the data set that corresponds with X. I'll show you this. Mean or average of Y values. N is the number of data points. अगर ये इन सब चीज को आप समझ गए, मतलब दीज आर द डिफरेंट what shall I say, the different elements in my formula. तो co-variation of X versus Y, that means company versus Sensex, is equal to the sum of my company minus the average multiplied by the stock market minus its average divided by n minus 1. n is the number of data points, कितने सालों का आपने ये लिया है. नाउ ये वाला जो चीज हुआ, इसके बाद इफ आई वांट टू कैलकुलेट, इट विल बी लाइक दिस. सपोज आई एम ट्राइंग टू कैलकुलेट फॉर अ कंपनी कॉल्ड अशोक पेंट्स. दिस इज अ फिक्टिशियस कंपनी, ठीक है, काल्पनिक है. आई एम ट्राइंग टू कैलकुलेट, आई एम टेकिंग द मार्केट रिटर्न ऑफ दिस कंपनी फॉर 5 years. ठीक, तो दीज आर माई, कभी बढ़ता है कभी घटता है, बिग इंक्रीज बिग डिक्रीज बिग डिक्रीज. और ये हमारे अशोक पेंट्स का है, ये वाला स्टॉक मार्केट है, दिस इज अशोक पेंट्स. नाउ इफ आई टेक ये दोनों चीजों को लेके आई एम पुटिंग इट हियर. मार्केट रिटर्न फर्स्ट ईयर वाज 18.6 पॉजिटिव, सेकंड में 16.5 नेगेटिव, थर्ड में देयर वाज अ ह्यूज जंप 63.83, फोर्थ में -20.65 डाउन हो गया ईयर टू ईयर, फिफ्थ में फिर डाउन. अगर इन सब का आप एवरेज लेंगे इट कम्स टू 5.482. सेम चीज एक्सरसाइज इफ वी डू फॉर द कंपनी अशोक पेंट्स, यू गेट फर्स्ट ईयर में 23.46 पॉजिटिव, 36 -36 in year 2, 52.64 in year 3, -7.29 in year 4, and -12.95 in year 5. Without looking at anything else, एक चीज आप यहां देख सकते हैं कि जब मार्केट गोज अप द शेयर प्राइस इसकी भी ग्रोथ होती है पॉजिटिव. मार्केट ग्रोथ जब नेगेटिव है तो इस कंपनी के शेयर प्राइस की भी ग्रोथ नेगेटिव है. सी, माइनस 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 प्लस 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 प्लस. अब क्या है, जब भी हम डिविएशन निकालते हैं इन स्टेटिस्टिक्स, जो स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मूला इसका है, आप हर एक साल का जो ग्रोथ रेट था उसमें से आप एवरेज निकाल दीजिए. मतलब कि अगर मेरा एवरेज 5 है तो हमारा ग्रोथ उससे कितना ऊपर या कितना नीचे था. एवरेज तो 5 है, 5.4. तो इन दिस ईयर माय एक्चुअल थिंग वाज 18.6. दिस मींस इट इज 13%, 13 मोर देन द एवरेज. और सेकेंड ईयर में इट इज -21 ऑफ, हमारा एवरेज तो पॉजिटिव फिगर है 5.482, ये माइनस है. तो दैट मीन्स कि हमारा जो डिफरेंस है इन द एक्चुअल परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ दैट ईयर एंड द एवरेज, इट इज 21.98. तीसरे साल 63 - 5 58, फोर्थ ईयर -20 और ये 5.4, यू ऐड देम टुगेदर बिकॉज ये माइनस है 26, 17 और इसको ऐड कीजिए ये 23. नाउ अशोक रिटर्न का भी सेम थिंग. फर्स्ट ईयर में इट हैड अ रिटर्न ऑफ 23.46, इसका एवरेज है 3.9. तो दैट मीन्स कि इन दैट ईयर ये अपने एवरेज से 19.5% ज्यादा था. सेकेंड ईयर में वो अपने एवरेज से 40% कम था. थर्ड ईयर में ये 48% ज्यादा था. फोर्थ ईयर में ये 11% कम था. और फिफ्थ में ये 1690 कम था. नाउ उसी स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन फॉर्मूला में अब क्या होगा, यू कीप मल्टीप्लाइंग दीज टू. मल्टीप्लीकेशन का क्या बेनिफिट होता है कि एवरीथिंग बिकम्स अ पॉजिटिव फिगर। ये जितना है वो एक पॉजिटिव फिगर हो जाएगा। दिस मल्टीप्लाइड बाय दिस 13 इंटू 19 255 21 इंटू 48 80 58 इंटू ऐसे करके इसको हमने यहां टोटल कर लिया दिस। अब इसको आप इसका स्क्वायर ऑफ मार्केट डिविएशंस वो यहां निकाल लिए सबका। और उसके बाद व्हाट वी डू इज वी डिवाइड दिस बाय 5, तो हमारा एवरेज कोवेरियंस पता लग गया 933.26, ये वाला जो है दिस पार्ट। और इसको फिर से यहां देखिए, द स्क्वायर ऑफ डिविएशंस ऑफ आरएम, 13 का स्क्वायर, 21 का स्क्वायर, 58 का स्क्वायर, ऐसे करके ये सारा यहां पता लग गया। नाउ ये जो हमारा टोटल है इसका एवरेज, सॉरी, और ये दोनों को हम यहां डिवाइड करते हैं। ये जो आपका आया दिस फिगर हियर 0.88, दिस इज योर बीटा। बेसिकली इससे क्या पता लग रहा है, मार्केट इज 1057, यू आर 933। दिस इज द बेसिक थिंग हियर। आपकी कंपनी 933 पर है, मार्केट इज एट 0.88। एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दिस व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि आपका बीटा जो है, अगर इन दोनों को माने आप सपोज कीजिए इट्स लाइक सेइंग 9/10। आप ऐसे सोचो ना, अगर 10 है मार्केट तो आपका 9 है, तो व्हाट इज द परसेंटेज ऑफ 9/10? इट इज 0.88। सो ये जो सिस्टम है, दिस इज द रिस्क ऑफ द कंपनी। इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि द शेयर प्राइस ऑफ दिस कंपनी अशोक पेंट्स moves in the same direction as the market to the extent of 88%। मतलब अगर आप इस कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं तो you can more or less assume that it will move to the almost 90% in the same way as the market moves। मार्केट अगर पॉजिटिव प्रिडिक्शंस है फॉर द मार्केट इन द डेज टू कम और इन द इयर्स टू कम, तो इस कंपनी का भी ग्रोथ मोर और लेस पॉजिटिव ही रहेगा अगर हम हिस्टोरिकल डेटा देखें। रिमेंबर, ये जो भी डेटा हम ले रहे हैं दिस इज हिस्टोरिकल डेटा, पास्ट का डेटा है। तो वी आर टेकिंग दिस ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दिस वी आर लुकिंग एट द मूवमेंट ऑफ द शेयर प्राइसेस एज अगेंस्ट द मूवमेंट ऑफ द स्टॉक इंडेक्स। और इन दोनों को कंपेयर करके वी आर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू फाइंड आउट कि इन दोनों का क्या कंपैरिजन है। इनका एवरेज कर लिया, एवरेज से डिविएशन दोनों का निकाल लिए, और उसके बाद उसको एवरेज स्क्वायर कर दिए, और स्क्वायर करने के बाद वी आर बेसिकली एवरेजिंग दैट ऑल्सो। 466 को 5 से डिवाइड कर लिए, 5288 को 5 से डिवाइड कर दिए, सो वी हैव द एवरेज ऑफ बोथ एंड देन वी लुक एट दिस। दिस इज द फॉर्मूला टू कैलकुलेट बीटा। लेकिन लाइक आई सेड, इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी फॉर यू टू डू दिस। अगर आप ये करने लगेंगे फिर आप और कोई काम कर नहीं पाएंगे। आपका जो बिजनेस वगैरह है, विवेक जी, वो तो गया, और दीप्ति और प्रेरणा, आप लोगों का जो कॉलेज में जो काम चल रहा है वो भी फिनिश्ड। यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू डू एनीथिंग, यू विल ओनली बी डूइंग दिस, एंड इन द एंड यू विल बी थिंकिंग कि ये संजय सर ने क्या बता दिया, बेकार चीज।
But sir,
सो
if we made that formula, just we have to kept the values of the share. That's it.
yes, that's all. You have the formula, get the beta, put the share, you will get the CAPM of that share. वो आपको पता लग जाएगा कि क्या
It
इसका।
means we are planning to invest. Means like that current example of Hyundai, he is bring the IPO of 3 lakh crore.
हाँ,
Means after more than 20 years. Nobody will come inside that market in start motors like that. Only Hyundai take that place. So we can calculate we have to apply for that IPO or not.
हाँ, यू कैन कैलकुलेट, बट इन द केस ऑफ एन आईपीओ ना, आपके पास में हिस्टोरिकल डेटा बहुत ज्यादा होगा नहीं, सो बी केयरफुल।
Yeah,
नॉर्मली दिस इज डन फॉर एस्टैब्लिश्ड कंपनीज, जो कि लाइक वी सेड ना, कि स्टेबल कंपनीज जो चल रही हैं मार्केट में, उनको आप देखो। अगर आप कोई सेकेंडरी मार्केट इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रहे हैं ना, जहां पर कि द कंपनी इज ऑलरेडी देयर और उसके बाद उसका काफी डेटा अवेलेबल है, देन यू कैन ट्राई टू डू दिस एक्सरसाइज।
but
और ये करके,
they
बट
also reveal their financial data, na? Means
नहीं, फाइनेंशियल डेटा से ना आपको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है।
okay,
दिस इज ओनली बेस्ड ऑन मार्केट डेटा। वो उस तरह का एनालिसिस ना जो फाइनेंशियल है, दैट इज अ डिफरेंट एनालिसिस।
right,
वहां पर हम कंपनी परफॉर्मेंस की बात करते हैं कि भाई इस कंपनी का जो इंटरनल जो रिटर्न्स है वो कैसा है, व्हाट प्रॉफिट इज इट मेकिंग, रिटर्न ऑन इक्विटी क्या है, रिटर्न ऑन कैपिटल क्या है। दोज आर दोज आर डिफरेंट पैरामीटर्स। उससे क्या होता है कि आपको उस कंपनी के फंडामेंटल्स का पता लग जाता है। इज
correct,
इट अ फंडामेंटली स्ट्रॉन्ग कंपनी, फंडामेंटल्स माने फाइनेंशियली इज इट स्ट्रॉन्ग, वो आपको
right,
उसकी जानकारी तो डेफिनेटली हो जाएगी। बट सीएपीएम इज नॉट कंसर्न्ड अबाउट दैट।
correct.
सीएपीएम है,
Nifty
ये मतलब
50
ना
and
कुछ,
Sensex is
बस इट इज ओनली कंसर्न्ड अबाउट द बिहेवियर ऑफ द शेयर प्राइस इन द स्टॉक मार्केट, कि आपके कंपनी का शेयर प्राइस किस तरह से बिहेव करता है इन द शेयर प्राइस। सी, इसमें क्या है, इट इज नॉट रैंडम ना। कंपनी
right,
के जो शेयर प्राइसेस हैं, द प्राइस इज बेस्ड ऑन द सप्लाई एंड डिमांड, एज्यूमिंग कि सप्लाई ऑफ शेयर्स इज फिक्स्ड, बिकॉज लेट्स से कोई नए इश्यूज नहीं आ रहे हैं, कुछ नहीं हो रहे हैं, तो जो मार्केट में अवेलेबल है वो मोर और लेस एक फिक्स्ड लॉट है। फर्क किस में आता है, डिमांड। और डिमांड जो है, डिमांड इज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय दैट फाइनेंशियल। जिस फाइनेंशियल की बात आप कर रहे हैं विवेक, उससे डिमांड पर उसका असर पड़ेगा डेफिनेटली, बट द डिमांड अल्टीमेटली इज अ सब्जेक्टिव थिंग। उसको देखिए, हम और आप किस कंपनी का शेयर खरीदते हैं, किसका नहीं खरीदते हैं, दिस इज अल्टीमेटली अ पर्सनल डिसीजन। Nobody can honestly say that this decision is made without some emotional input. मेरा अपना कुछ एक thoughts होगा इसमें, which is getting into my
correct,
decision. So when millions of investors invest, they are not taking a very rational decision. Each person is taking the decision as per his own whatever he has factored in. But in the end, the average share price which you get is supposed to be factoring in all the pluses and minuses, for the simple reason that it is based on the decisions taken not by one man but by thousands and thousands of investors. इसलिए इट इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी अ गुड पैरामीटर कि शेयर प्राइस को हमने लिया, और शेयर प्राइस को हम कंपेयर करते हैं विथ द इंडेक्स विच इज सपोज टू रिप्रेजेंट ऑल द शेयर्स इन द मार्केट। इस तरह से व्हाट हैपेंस इज आई गेट अ फेयरली गुड आइडिया about the performance or the relationship of the stock I am interested in with the market as a whole. तो आप इन्वेस्टमेंट के पहले अगर बीटा चेक कर लेंगे ना, if you check the beta before investment, it will help you to understand कि historically ये stock कहां पर है, is it
correct,
moving with the market, is it moving against the market, और अगर वो मार्केट के साथ चल रहा है तो to what extent is it moving with the market, 88%, 90%, 70%, 50%, किस वे में चल रहा है ये, that is the
correct,
thing which you should understand from this. So this is CAPM. ये सीएपीएम का एक यहां पर एक एग्जांपल दिया हुआ है लाइक दिस। सो कैसे करके वो अशोक पेंट्स के केस में, सो दिस इज द फॉर्मूला। मेरा जो स्टॉक है you think of this as expected rate of return. रिस्क फ्री रेट, रिस्क फ्री रेट आप लोगों को याद होगा. What is the risk free rate? This will be the rate on government bonds. गवर्नमेंट बॉन्ड्स का जो भी रेट है उसको हम लेंगे, प्लस प्लस क्या करेंगे इसमें हम, बीटा, बीटा विल बी मल्टीप्लाइड बाय द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द, मैंने बेसिकली जो मार्केट रिस्क प्रीमियम है उसका जो ये है वो हम ले लेंगे. दिस विल गिव मी द रिक्वायर्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न. तो expected return of investment, RF is risk-free rate, beta is the beta of the investment. RM minus RF is equal to the market risk premium. अगर अब इस फॉर्मूला को आप यहां पर इन जो डेटा पिछले स्लाइड में था उसको लेके आप करेंगे तो रिस्क फ्री रिटर्न इज 5, मार्केट रिटर्न इज 12, बीटा इज 0.88, रिस्क प्रीमियम इज 7, beta into risk premium is 6.6, required rate is 11.6. कैसे आया ये? 6 plus the 5 जो हमारा रिस्क फ्री रेट. बेसिकली इसमें क्या हो रहा है, वी आर गेटिंग द, टेकिंग द मार्केट रिटर्न. ये हिस्टोरिकल आप लेंगे इसको, व्हाट इज द हिस्टोरिकल रिटर्न. Market return is the return of one of the major indices, such as the Sensex or MSCI, to be calculated on average basis. Suppose करो वो 12 है, risk free is 5, beta is 0.88, तो risk premium अगर होगा 12 minus 5 is 7. लेकिन आपकी जो कंपनी है ये 88% चलती है as per the Sensex, तो इसका 7 का 88% हम लेंगे 6.16, बिकॉज अगर सेंसेक्स 1 है तो ये 0.88 है. तो अगर सेंसेक्स का रिटर्न 7 है तो ये 6.16 है, 88% ऑफ 7. और इसमें आप रिस्क फ्री रेट अगर ऐड कर देते हैं तो रिक्वायर्ड रेट इज 11.6. दिस बिकम्स द एक्चुअल, उल्टे साइड से देखेंगे आप तो दिस इज द कॉस्ट फ्रॉम द कंपनीज पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. दिस इज द एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न which investors are expecting from your stock. आपका जो लेवल ऑफ रिस्क है, आपका जो शेयर प्राइसेस है और जो हिस्टोरिकल रिकॉर्ड आपका है, उन सब चीज को देखते हुए दिस इज व्हाट द इन्वेस्टर्स आर एक्सपेक्टिंग. दिस इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ CAPM. तो आई विल सेंड दिस टू यू, इसको देखिए. इट शुड हेल्प यू एंड इट विल, if for example tomorrow for those of you who are in college, Deepti or Prerna, if you decide to take up finance or do some certification in this, then these are very basic financial like formulas which I think you should know about. I have further explained this here.
Sir, one question.
ऐसा कोई नई बात? हाँ, please.
Those companies who are not come under means Nifty 50 and BSE, so for that also we can use this formula.
हाँ हाँ हाँ, देखिए निफ्टी में अब या सेंसेक्स में तो बस गिने चुने कंपनीज होंगे ना.
हाँ, only
but 50 in Nifty and 30 in Sensex. But it is supposed to represent the market. वो मार्केट का प्रतिनिधि एक तरह से है वो, तो वही बताता है कि मार्केट का क्या उतार चढ़ाव है. वी डोंट लुक एट ऑल स्टॉक्स, या ना ही, बिकॉज लाइक आई सेड देयर आर ऑलमोस्ट 8,000 कंपनीज देयर. तो सबका एवरेज करके करना, आई एम श्योर इट कैन बी डन, आज के जमाने में तो हो ही सकता है वो, लेकिन हिस्टोरिकल डेटा नहीं मिलेगा.
करेक्ट,
हिस्टोरिकल डेटा इस पर नहीं मिल सकता है जो सेंसेक्स में आपको. तो पीपल फील कि इट इज बेटर. जो बहुत छोटे स्टॉक्स है ना उनको लेने का कोई मतलब नहीं होता है. अच्छा, बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं इस 8,000 में जिसमें ट्रेडिंग डेली बेसिस पर होती नहीं है, तो उनको कंसिडर इसलिए नहीं किया जाता है. सो व्हेन दे लुक कंस्ट्रक्ट द इंडेक्स, वो ऐसे स्टॉक्स को लेते हैं जो कि बेसिकली मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन जिनका अच्छा हो, जिसके ट्रेडिंग वॉल्यूम्स ठीक ठाक हों, तो उसी को लिया जाता है। और ये ऐसा नहीं है कि ये फिक्स्ड है, इट इज द कंपनीज कीप चेंजिंग।
Yeah.
हाँ, वो कंपनीज को ये फेरबदल करते रहते हैं। द कंपनीज कीप चेंजिंग इन द स्टॉक इंडेक्स, एंड द रीजन फॉर दैट इज दैट सम कंपनीज बिकम मोर इंपॉर्टेंट देन अदर कंपनीज फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ देयर इन्फ्लुएंस ऑन द मार्केट, तो दे कीप चेंजिंग दैट। ठीक है।
Yes.
हाँ। उसके बाद आई हैव ट्राइड टू गिव यू सम ऑफ द ये द advantages of or disadvantages of these different models, which I think you will already understand. अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जो डिविडेंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मॉडल था, ग्रोथ मॉडल जो था, उसमें सी यू आर एज्यूमिंग अ कांस्टेंट रेट और यू आर आल्सो एज्यूमिंग अ कांस्टेंट ग्रोथ रेट। कंपनी भी एक कांस्टेंट रेट में बढ़ेगी और आपका जो ग्रोथ रेट होगा दैट विल आल्सो बी कांस्टेंट। तो these things normally create a bit of problem कि इट इज माने इट इज वेरी थियोरेटिकल, बट इट गिव्स यू अ बेसिस। आपको इससे एक आधार मिल जाता है, यू कैन हैव अ लुक एंड देन यूज दैट टू लुक एट अदर पैरामीटर्स एंड फॉर्म एन ओपिनियन। और फिर अगर आप सीएपीएम को यूज करेंगे तो इट इज बेस्ड ऑन वेरी साउंड assumptions, बिकॉज उसमें आप रिस्क भी देख रहे हैं, आप रिटर्न भी देख रहे हैं। अल्टीमेटली कॉस्ट इज ऑलवेज अबाउट दोज टू फैक्टर्स, so you're looking at both, and इसमें एक ही कंडीशन है कि द कंपनी हैज टू बी लिस्टेड ऑन द स्टॉक एक्सचेंज। अगर वो स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में लिस्टेड नहीं है देन ऑफ कोर्स यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू गेट एनीथिंग। बट ये देखिए, ऑल स्टेटिस्टिक्स ना एंड ऑल ऑफ दीज फाइनेंस फॉर्मूलाज ऑल आर बेस्ड ऑन डेटा। तो अगर डेटा नहीं है तब फिर कुछ नहीं है। You can only have these formulas, you can only have these models if data is available, and data is very much available in the case of listed companies. तो जो लिस्टेड है स्टॉक मार्केट में, उनका अपना शेयर प्राइस का बिहेवियर जब से लिस्टिंग उनकी है तब से हम देख सकते हैं। और सेंसेक्स तो है ही। तो सेंसेक्स जो है, हम पिछले माने 1979 से ये 21 years और 24, तो मतलब कितने हो गए, 45 years already there. So 45 years data of Sensex is there. If for those who are interested, if you subscribe to a site, pay for it, you will get all the data. तो अगर आप बिलीव करते हैं खुद कैलकुलेट करने में, ऑल्सो यू आर एबल टू गेट इट। जो एनालिस्ट्स हैं जिनके लिए दिस इज अ लेट्स से एरिया फ्रॉम विच दे अर्न इनकम, they get the data, pay for the data, get the data, and they make their decisions on that basis. Now let us come into more this was a little numerical. Let us look at something which is let's say more comfortable for us. For anybody who is not in the mood for numbers, this will be, you'll feel more comfortable with this. So what I'm looking at is cost of capital in India today. ये 3 साल पहले किया, but it will give you an idea. एक सर्वे हुआ था 2021. This was basically led by Naveen Vora, partner and national leader, valuations, modeling, and economics at Ernst & Young, and Tirthankar Patnaik, who was the chief economist of the National Stock Exchange. तो इन दोनों बंदों ने मिलके they looked at a large number of companies to try to understand कि कॉस्ट क्या है आखिर, ये कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल। कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल रिमेंबर क्या है? इट इज द अमाउंट, बेसिकली द एवरेज ऑफ द अमाउंट ऑफ इक्विटी दैट यू हैव, उसका कॉस्ट, एंड द डेट दैट यू हैव, उसका कॉस्ट। वो दोनों का एवरेज, किस प्रोपोर्शन में आपका इक्विटी है, किस प्रोपोर्शन में आपका डेट है, उन सब चीज को कंसिडर करके यू फाइंड इट आउट। वी हैड डन दिस एक्सरसाइज इफ यू रिकॉल, और इससे आपको पता लग जाएगा कि आपका कॉस्ट क्या है। नाउ व्हाट इज द कॉस्ट इन द केस ऑफ मोस्ट कंपनीज इन इंडिया? 2017 से में ये जो है 15% हुआ करता था, 2021 में इट हैड ड्रॉप टू 14%। दिस वाज द कॉस्ट, इक्विटी प्लस डेट का एवरेज अगर आप ले रहे हैं तो दिस इज व्हाट यू आर गेटिंग। ओवर 1/3 ऑफ द रिस्पोंडेंट, इसमें जो रिस्पोंडेंट है जिससे ये लोगों ने बात किया, दोज आर ऑल कंपनीज, ये सब बड़ी कंपनीज हैं और छोटी कंपनीज हैं, मिला जुला के होगा। They expected their cost of equity to be in the 12 to 15% range. मतलब कि ज्यादा 1/3 ऑफ द रिस्पोंडेंट्स, जो कंपनीज को इन्होंने कांटेक्ट किया, उनमें से 1/3 felt that the cost of equity for them would be between 12% and 15%. और a quarter of the respondents, 1/3 का तो ये व्यू था, क्वार्टर का व्यू ये था कि हमारा 15 से 20 के रेंज में हो कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी। सो बेसिकली इट इज मच मच कॉस्टलियर देन डेट। और डेट के केस में लाइक आई सेड कि बॉन्ड यील्ड्स को बहुत यूज किया जाता है इसमें। 10-year बॉन्ड यील्ड, यानी जो बॉन्ड्स का मेच्योरिटी 10 साल का है, इशूड बाय द गवर्नमेंट, कंसिडर्ड एज अ रिस्क फ्री रेट ऑफ रिटर्न, इसका जो ये था वो 6.2% था। 6.7 हुआ करता था in 17. This had come down to 6.2, along with decline in policy rate of about 22%, has resulted in reducing the average cost of equity by 100 basis points. माने basically क्या हुआ है, क्यों ये, why has it come down by 100 basis points या 1% between 17 and 21? बैंक के lending rates कुछ घट गए हैं, that is one. The other is the cost of debt has also come down. Cost of debt has also come down. So because of that, this is happening. See, India historically has been a country which has been a costly company. ये debt का cost यहाँ बहुत रहा है generally. तो as a banker, I can tell you this. When we started off in the 80s, 90s, उस समय में जो लोन्स होते थे रिस्की वाले, दोज लोन्स यूज्ड टू हैव एन इंटरेस्ट रेट ऑफ 13-14%। लेकिन उसके दूसरा साइड भी फैक्ट है कि जो डिपॉजिट्स बैंक देती थी, दैट वाज क्लोज टू 11-12%। सो बैंक्स वुड गिव हाई रिटर्न्स टू इट्स डिपॉजिटर्स, बट इट वुड चार्ज अ लॉट फ्रॉम इट्स बोरोवर्स। तो ऑल दोज थिंग्स आर डाउन नाउ। तो उसका रिजल्ट ये हुआ है कि द कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी हैज कम डाउन। Decline in equity cost has been less than the decline in cost of debt. ठीक है? And most respondents use the bank lending rate with some adjustments as the benchmark for cost of capital. अब इसमें सेक्टर वाइज भी इन लोगों ने कैलकुलेट किया। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में I'll give you all sectors. यहां पर some interesting things are there. जो स्टार्टअप्स टाइप के हैं, उनका कॉस्ट इज क्लोज टू 18, real estate is close to 16.5, and FMCG and chemicals is 12.6 इनका कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी। स्टार्टअप्स ये आप सब कोई समझ रहे हैं, इट इज अ हाई रिस्क बिजनेस, तो इसका कॉस्ट सबसे ज्यादा। रियल एस्टेट में भी हाई रिस्क बहुत है, बहुत सारे फ्लैट्स बने पड़े हैं जो कि बिक नहीं रहे हैं, सो द इन्वेंट्री इज पाइलिंग अप, बैंक्स आर अनविलिंग टू लेंड, इसका भी ज्यादा है। इनफैक्ट जो अनविलिंग टू लेंड है, आई रिमेंबर व्हेन आई लेफ्ट द बैंक, काफी दिन हो गए उसके, लेकिन दैट पोजीशन हैज नॉट चेंज। इवन इन आवर टाइम बैंक, वी वर नॉट इनकरेज्ड टू गिव लोन्स टू रियल एस्टेट। रियल एस्टेट में किसी भी तरह का कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्क के लिए बैंक्स वर नॉट विलिंग टू गिव लोन्स बिकॉज इट वाज कंसिडर्ड टू बी रिस्की। तो ये एक है। नाउ लुक एट दिस, ये जो है आपका, दिस इज सेक्टर वाइज कॉस्ट ऑफ इक्विटी इन इंडियन कंपनीज। तो स्टार्टअप 17.8, रियल एस्टेट 16.6, हेल्थ केयर 14.1, others 14.1, renewables 14.1, retail 13.8, mobiles 13.7, utilities 13.7, ये इंफॉर्मेशन वाला ITES 13.6, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एंड सर्विसेज, BFSI 13.2, कंस्ट्रक्शन 13, हॉस्पिटैलिटी 12, chemicals 11.3. ये this is the position. Where is the source for this? Was business line, June 22nd, 2021. This was mainly available because of the survey that had been conducted. तो ये बेसिकली हम लोगों का जो कॉस्ट और डिविडेंड्स वाला जो सेक्शन था वो ये था. दिस इज वेयर वी फॉर द मोमेंट वी विल स्टॉप आवर financial part, financial management to at this point, or we will go into financial planning. जो आज 2 हफ्ते पहले, I think when Vivek was alone in class, and at that point of time I had decided to stop the financial for the moment, go into financial planning, but then I thought we should cover this cost of capital part and dividends and then come back to financial planning. So now we'll take a 2-3 minute break, and after that I'll come back to you with financial planning.
Yeah,
ठीक
sure,
है?
sir. Sir, if we are not earning, there is a question. We are not earning means like that. But our source of income is more than 5 lakh.
Okay.
If the expenses is like that only.
Hmm.
So how to cover these things in personal finances? The income is taxable, comes under the taxable income, but there is no source of income, but the incomes comes under the income tax.
No, but with a 5 lakh income,
More than
what
5
income
lakh.
are you paying? What tax are you paying on that? It won't be
Just
too much.
yeah, means there is nothing, not much, but I don't have any source of income. But my expenses is means today I calculate, which I file the ITR. So according to the calculation of that acknowledgement, so it's come under
See, I'll
taxable.
tell you one thing. नहीं ना, no, ओके नहीं, इट इज टैक्सेबल, वो ठीक है विवेक, बट बेसिक पॉइंट इसमें क्या है कि नो मैटर व्हाट द पोजीशन इज, यू विल हैव कहीं ना कहीं कटौती करके यू विल हैव टू मेक सम सेविंग, छोटा ही सेविंग हो। सी, अगर आप अभी से कुछ करना शुरू करेंगे ना सेव, उसका कंपाउंडिंग इफेक्ट बहुत है। अगर आप डिले कर देते हैं कि आज मेरा हो नहीं रहा है, कल हमारा इनकम बेटर होगा और तब हम सेव करेंगे, तो प्लीज रिमेंबर कि व्हाट यू सेव टुडे, अगर उसको आप रख, लेट अस से कि योर रिटायरमेंट इज 30 ईयर्स अवे, 30 साल या 35 साल आपको अभी टाइम है। इमेजिन कीजिए कि अगर आप 1,000 रुपया आज आप डालते हैं एंड इट स्टेज फॉर 35 ईयर्स, और 1,000 रुपया आप आज से 10 साल बाद डालते हैं और वो रहता है फॉर द नेक्स्ट 25 ईयर्स, इन दोनों के ये ग्रोथ में फर्क बहुत है।
Correct.
एक छोटा सा अमाउंट, whether you do it through an SIP, whether you do it through some other way, but you will have to seriously think of saving even the smallest amount regularly from now with a long term view. ये जो फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू डू राइट नाउ, इसमें भी यू विल सी दैट वन ऑफ द गोल्स दैट वी लुक एट इन फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग इज द कॉन्सेप्ट दैट दैट टाइम व्हेन यू विल नॉट हैव इनकम। भाई, हम तो ये कहेंगे कि भगवान करे कि हमेशा इनकम हो। इफ यू आर एबल टू बिल्ड अप योर बिजनेस और बिल्ड अप योर ओन abilities to continue to have some income, then you can have income till the end also. But assuming that there is a time, some 30, 35 years down the line, when your income will be less, it will not increase. See, देखिए दो तरह का है। वन, जो सैलरीड होते हैं, जैसे हमारा, जैसे आप देखेंगे, और एनीबडी हु इज सैलरीड, द इनकम इज लिमिटेड, उसका ग्रोथ भी लिमिटेड होता है। एंड द मोमेंट अ सैलरीड पर्सन रिटायर्स, his income is reduced by at least 50%।
Correct.
फ्रॉम दैट, और उसका फिर फर्दर ग्रोथ भी खत्म हो जाता है। इसलिए कि अगर वो पेंशनेबल है जॉब, इफ इट्स अ पेंशनेबल जॉब, द ग्रोथ ऑफ पेंशन इज नॉट लाइक द ग्रोथ ऑफ सैलरी।
Correct.
इसका कम होता है। पेंशन का स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट भी बहुत कम है। तो बेसिकली वट एवर स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग दैट पर्सन इज यूज टू, that comes down a lot the moment the person retires. Now, if you are in business, there can be two ways. One is that over the years you are able to build up a substantial amount of wealth. Wealth का definition क्या है? Wealth हम उसको कहते हैं कि बिना मेहनत किए मेरे पास पैसा आता रहे, मेरे पास कोई ऐसा खजाना हो जो कि अर्न करके हमें पैसे हर महीने दे बिना मेरे कुछ किए। जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सपोज आई राइट अ बुक, मैं आपको इस वे में कह रहा हूं, आई राइट अ बुक। इफ आई राइट अ बुक, तो मेहनत एक बार हुई, और अगर वो बुक चल गई, देन एवरी टाइम समबडी बाइज दैट बुक, मुझे भी अपना हिस्सा मिलेगा, पब्लिशर अपना हिस्सा लेगी, जो भी है, बट आई विल गेट माई शेयर। तो एक रॉयल्टी मुझे मिलेगा, एंड दैट आई विल कीप गेटिंग टिल दैट बुक continues to sell. Similarly, if I have a certain amount of money in the bank, that bank gives me interest. अगर वो इंटरेस्ट मैं काम करूं ना करूं कुछ भी हो, बैंक का जो भी रेट है एट दैट रेट इट विल गिव मी इंटरेस्ट. इसको पैसिव इनकम बोलते हैं. सो पैसिव इनकम जनरली कम्स फ्रॉम सम वेल्थ दैट यू हैव क्रिएटेड. और हमारा गोल क्या होना चाहिए कि बाय द जब तक हमारे पास क्षमता है कुछ कमाने की, तब तक हम काम करें, कमाते रहें और उसमें से कुछ हम बचाते रहें. So
Correct.
for let's say Deepti, for Deepti, these things are far ahead. लेकिन as a principle, this is what everyone should adopt. देखिए वो जो एक क्रीमी लेयर राइट एट द टॉप है, जिसके पास में बेशुमार दौलत है, उसकी बात छोड़ दीजिए. फॉर देम मतलब जो जीने जीने वाला जो जद्दोजहद है वो
Right.
खत्म हो. उनके लिए जो है एक तरह से मंजिलें और भी हैं, वो वाला है कि वो उधर वो जा रहे हैं. लेकिन फॉर मोस्ट पीपल इट इज नेसेसरी फॉर अस टू बी केयरफुल दैट वी प्लान वेल. अगर हम प्लान करते हैं, ओनली देन इज इट पॉसिबल टू एक्चुअली बी सिक्योर when the income stops. Deepti, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Huh. So we are going into another unit now, financial planning. This right now may not seem to be very relevant for you. Because as far as I understand, you're studying in college. I am assuming that you are not earning on your own. If that is correct, then this particular section will be something which you should be aware of, but we may not have an immediate applicability. So this part, but you will manage to learn a lot about insurance, mutual funds, equity, investing in gold, investing in real estate. So there are a number of takeaways for you also, which will help you at some point of time. At least you will have these basics with you. Once you have these basics with you, it will help. And for Vivek, I'm sure that this is something which may have an immediate applicability for him. That is why I always put one part of this financial planning into my module. So what are we looking at? We are looking at introduction to the financial planning. What is financial planning? Kis tarah se, what exactly should I be looking at? Concept of asset classes, risk and return trade-off, life cycle analysis, very interesting in insurance. And then these others are more detailed, but basically after that, we'll be looking at mutual funds, equity, real estate, gold, alternate investments, all that. So let's start with this. Now, in financial planning, so when we say financial planning, what are we basically talking about? So it is about, first thing to remember is, we are putting together a plan for your future. Specifically around main question, how will you manage your finances and prepare for all the potential costs and issues that arise in the future? This is one big part of this planning process. And to do this, you have to be aware of where you are today. Like Vivek was saying, he has made some sort of an assessment of his expenses, his income, his needs, his taxes. So that is the starting point. that is the starting point. You have to look at this. Where are you today? And then along with this, you also look at what assets you have. And if you have borrowed money, what are your liabilities? So you look at all these things, then you look at your goals. What are the things that you expect to happen in the future? See, financial planning can only be done if you are able to sit together with family members and work out what will happen in the future, what is likely to happen in the future. एक अमाउंट आना चाहिए. टेक अ वेरी सिंपल वन. आई नीड अ कार. अगर मुझे गाड़ी चाहिए तो व्हाट कार विल आई टेक, व्हाट विल बी द प्राइस ऑफ दिस कार. इसमें शुड आई टेक अ लोन? इफ आई टेक अ लोन, व्हाट विल बी द इंस्टॉलमेंट? डू आई हैव मनी टू पे दैट इंस्टॉलमेंट? और if I don't, maybe I should not do it now. The whole point in financial planning is that you do not make a hasty decision which puts you in trouble in future. This is the main thing. तो आप बैठ के पहले कैलकुलेट कीजिए, पहले तो just discuss and try to find out what exactly you need in the future. So we'll get into some of the standard needs. So first is this: evaluate your current financial situation. Second is identify your goals, and then you make a plan to meet these goals. Once you make your plan, you stick to that plan. So next slide, we'll get into this in more detail. So basically what the summary will be something like this: a plan for managing your financial resources so as to meet all your present and future needs. Future needs is going to depend on your goals, and one future need which will always be there will be the needs which will come with retirement. Once you retire, income stops, then what happens? So that is one. First step, you make a balance sheet to assess your liquidity position. So develop your financial goals. So make a balance sheet. Number one, balance sheet simply means get a list of all the assets that you have. You put the value of those assets, whatever you own. Take a certain amount to leave personal belongings out of this. If you have a motorcycle, if you have a car, take those things. If you have a house, you take that. Take those things, put that on the asset side. If there is some jewelry, put that. All these things, if you have bought an LIC policy or any insurance policy, that could be one. If you have bought, let's say, some certificates issued by the government of India, postal certificates, anything which is of value. If you have fixed deposits in the bank, take those things. Take each of those and list it. And list the value today. Get the amount. If it is a fixed deposit, when will it mature? If it is a car, remember it is a depreciating asset. Its value is going down. But it has a value today. That is there. So you can put it. If it is a house and it is already paid for, let's say you have inherited this house, then it has a huge value. But maybe it is not something which you want to sell, but it is there. It is part of your assets. On the liability side, look at those things. This is only going to be relevant for you if you have borrowed money from a bank or from any source. Even if you have borrowed money from a friend and you have to return it to him in due course, even then that is a liability which you will have to list out there. And the next in a liability, the next important thing is by which year you have to repay. What is the monthly load on you? So that is one. Second thing is, how much cash do you have or near cash? Remember, we were talking in the earlier stages when we started the financial management, our whole module, we were also referring to this near cash thing. So near cash is basically what? Anything that can be converted into cash immediately. So in the near cash categories, what will you have? The amount you have in your saving account, the cash that you have at home, the fixed deposits that you have, any securities that you have. The securities that you have will be your insurance policies. It could be, let's say, government, let's say, national savings certificates, PPF. PPF will not be encashable, so leave that out. It could be equity shares that you have. It could be mutual fund units. It can be gold. All these are the different things which are things which can be converted into cash within a reasonable amount of time. So in case you need money, this is there. So this is one. The other thing, way of fixing your liquidity position is if you have a overdraft account with a bank, which is willing to give you, you are not using this overdraft account for your daily needs. It is there only as a safety. In case of dire need, maybe there's a health emergency, maybe there's a family emergency, something is there, then you can at least borrow money from the bank. You can just go and take the money. You already have the limit. So that is also one way to handle the liquidity problem. But generally in financial planning, what is recommended is that you have enough cash to manage for 6 months if your job stops, if your regular monthly income stops for any reason, then you should have a buffer of 6 months. 6 महीने में के लिए you require money so that your bills are paid. If you're living in rented accommodation, rent is paid, the power bills, the telecom bills, all these things are paid. And then your food bills, everything. If there are children, tuition fees, add all that together, only those which are absolutely necessary, and see what it comes to in 1 month. Multiply by 6. That is the amount of money which you should have, and to have at least some comfort. In case of a crisis, you have 6 months with you. So this is the second part. The next aspect is to determine your financial goals. Here, there is a short-term goal and there is a long-term goal. तो short-term goals हैं, उनका एक time period आप लेके चलिए. Let's say that you want to buy a car. This car, इसकी कीमत क्या है और ये कब तक आप चाहते हैं करना. See, if you are planning, it cannot be like that. I go to the showroom right now and buy the car. That is not the idea. That is taking an impulsive decision. That is nothing to do with planning. If you are planning this, then you have to plan all aspects of it. For example, if I am buying a car, how much money do I need? Out of this, obviously, I cannot afford the full amount. Nobody buys a car by taking money out from the saving fund and going and giving it to the car dealer and driving away with the car. It may feel very good, nobody does it, but. So basically, then you'll be looking at taking a loan. Any bank, any financial provider will give you a loan, but it will be along with a certain amount of down payment by you. The down payment could be 15%, it could be 20%. So whatever is the price of that vehicle, you will need to have at least 15 to 20% of the amount available with you as a down payment if you want to buy a car. So that becomes your goal. That down payment will be your goal without actually disturbing your own financial position. how long will it take you to get that down payment amount? That is one. And once you take the loan and buy the car, what will be the installment? So you should be very clear that you have enough money to pay that installment. If you don't, then it is not advisable at all to go for a car, because a car only loses value. Any car in 3 years' time will be less than 50% of its value. If you're lucky, it will be 50%. So this is one thing to always remember. Then there are certain goals which will come with time. For example, children education. That is a goal. You are investing in your child. There is no return in terms of money. You are trying to invest in the child with the intention that the child becomes self-sustaining. उसको नौकरी लग जाती है और वो काम कर सकता है. Like that. For that, you will have to realistically calculate how much money is required. Now, the assumption is normally that school level tak, as long as the child is studying in the same town as you are in, there are no residential costs here, hostel वगैरह का चक्कर नहीं है. You're only should be able to pay from your whatever income you have. But the moment the child gets into higher education, the game will change. There will be a large amount to be paid. Now, if you think that at that point, you will go for, let's say, an education loan, then that education loan can become a huge burden on the child. Because he will start his life, or she will start her life with the education responsibility. That responsibility will be hers or his. And that is a huge thing, because at the start of the career, the amount of salary is less. So this is just, see, an example of short-term goal one and one long-term goal. Long-term is, why I'm saying long-term, assuming that you start fast, then the big requirement in the case of education will come only after maybe 18 years, when the child is 18 years old. So it's still in the future. There is still time. The car decision has to be made very practically without emotion. Then only it'll work. So that's two. Long-term goals. One, of course, was children. The one long-term goal, which I said a little earlier, which will always be there, will relate to what? Retirement. That is the biggest goal, in fact. One of the biggest goals that you have. Because there is no getting past that goal. That goal will always be there. So then you have to look at this. What are your available options? Okay, how will you get this? Evaluate alternative courses of action. What are the risks and returns of each action? यहाँ पे you remember your opportunity cost. So when I'm saying what are the available options, the assumption is that I will get some savings and I will invest it. There is a book called The Psychology of Money, so written by an American. And he said that there is the biggest component of the saving which you have, of the returns that you get. He says that the biggest component of the returns which you will get is the amount that you save. For example, what is he saying? A recurring deposit. You are depositing every month. You deposit 1,000 every month. वो आपको साल के अंत में you will get maybe 1,000 rupees interest. अगर 13,000 वो बढ़ के हुआ, that recurring deposit, उसमें से आपका contribution कितना है? 12,000. जो आपने दिया, इंटरेस्ट इज हाउ मच, 1000। ये रिलेशनशिप कभी भी बदलेगा नहीं. दिस इज हाउ इट विल बी. It can change if your investment, you have so prudent, आप इतना अच्छा से करते हैं कि 10-20 साल के बाद में भी it will have a compounding effect and all will come in, and then it can change. जहां आपका कंपोनेंट्स जो हैं वो इंटरेस्ट का ज्यादा हो जाएगा और आपका अपना सेविंग्स का कम होगा. बट नॉर्मली योर बिगेस्ट वे ऑफ अचीविंग अ टारगेट इज टू सेव मोर. दिस इज द फर्स्ट थिंग. और सेविंग इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर. सो द नेक्स्ट थिंग इज, जो अननेसेसरी एक्सपेंसेस आपके लाइफ में है, दैट यू हैव टू कट. इफ यू रिड्यूस योर एक्सपेंडिचर, you increase your saving. And the more you save, the more secure you are in the future. This is the basic philosophy here. Now, when you invest, you will have to look at the different options that you have. So are you going to invest in a bank fixed deposit? Are you going to invest in maybe an insurance? If you confuse insurance with investment, and you begin to put money in insurance which has a unit linked plan, and you think this is a way of investing. As we do this course, I'll try to show you why this is wrong. When you invest, you should only invest in pure investment instruments. Insurance is a different thing. For that, you will have to adopt a different policy, which we will look into later on in this course. Now, what are the available options of investment? So should I go for that mutual fund? Should I go for an SIP? Should I go for a recurring dividend? क्या करना चाहिए? So these are different things which you need to understand. And whenever you select one particular option, you will always have to look at the second best option. कि उधर क्या था? आपके पास में ये ऑप्शंस थे. If you choose A, if आपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स अगर चुना, and the other option was banks, what exactly are you losing? Bank वाला तो पक्का था. They would give you 7% or 6.5%, जो भी था, whatever they had promised, they will give you. Mutual fund में you are not so sure, but you may get more. So here you know that your opportunity cost is the interest that the bank would have paid. ये वाली बात पक्की है. So that is basically what you will be losing if you go for the mutual fund. If you go for the bank, what are you losing? You are losing what the mutual fund would have given you. An awareness of this, what you are gaining and what you are losing, that should be very, very clear. आपके रिस्क प्रोफाइल के हिसाब से कौन सा रास्ता ठीक है? This is the thing which you need to have. Once you have made your plan, implement the plan. Do it. जो भी तकलीफ हो उसको करने में, उसको कर लो. And don't think that this plan is something which is fixed. This plan has to be reviewed from time to time. जो decisions आपने लिया, wherever you are investing the money, look at those instruments, whether those are doing well or not. That is one part. The second is your own goals are dynamic. वो भी बदलते रहते हैं. तो ये इसलिए जरूरी है कि you do this properly. Now, why we need financial planning? This is, I hope by now, this is already clear in your mind. You have a limited amount of money and you have short-term and long-term financial goals which you have to meet. Some of the goals I have written here. Car, flat, holiday, education of child, marriage of child, retirement. Normally, these are applicable for almost everyone. सबके साथ ये goals होते हैं. Then, look at your existing resources. Like I said, एक आप बैलेंस शीट बनाएं अपना, इसमें यू पुट एवरीथिंग दैट यू हैव, कैश, stocks and shares, fixed deposits, residential property, land, commercial property, jewelry, gold, etc. Whatever is there, put it on the asset side. Any liabilities that you have, put that on the liabilities side. Then you look at the future financial resources. फ्यूचर फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज में सबसे बड़ा क्या है? जो भी नौकरी आप करते हैं या जो भी बिजनेस आपका है, व्हाट इज द अमाउंट दैट यू कैन अर्न फ्रॉम दैट? दैट इज वन. देन आर यू गोइंग टू इनहेरिट एनीथिंग? फैमिली में जो वेल्थ है, if some of that you are going to inherit, then that is another part which you need to consider. Because at some point, जब कभी भी वो मिलता है, that is going to be part of the kitty of money you will have at some point in the future. So keep it in mind. This is also something. Now, what are the other aspects here? Tax planning. एक हो गया. So you have tax planning. Just a minute, please. So coming back to this, what are the elements of your financial plan? So one, of course, is tax planning. One is insurance planning. Some of it will go for taxes, insurance, some will go for investment. In investment, education fund planning, retirement planning. These are the big ones. Note, retired life can be 25 to 30 years. The plan must be good enough to sustain a family without income for this long period. रिटायरमेंट प्लानिंग का रेलेवेंस यहां पर है कि रिटायरमेंट अगर 25-30 साल की है और उसमें इनकम आपकी कम हो गई है, देन इनकम जब है उस समय से कुछ थिंकिंग इसके बारे में करके आगे बढ़ना है. ओनली देन डज इट वर्क प्रॉपर्ली. ये वाला जो पार्ट है, इन केस यू फील द नीड टू मेक अ विल, कि जो आपके जो लीगल हेयर्स होंगे उनके लिए अगर कुछ प्लानिंग करना है, how will the property actually be divided? That part is referred to as estate planning. That is also part of your retirement planning. और एक कॉन्सेप्ट होता है philanthropic planning. ये basically this means giving your wealth to someone else. This is only applicable if I am comfortable enough to first look after myself and my family. If after that there is something left, then I can think about this. So these are the basic elements here. It starts with your income. From the income, you start with taxes because that is a legal requirement. Insurance to protect yourself, and then investment for the future. And then this aspect, the estate planning, this is an optional area. And the philanthropic planning depends on the capacity of the individual. If the capacity is good, then I think you can think about this. It will give, for many people, it is a matter of great satisfaction that they are able to help organizations whom they like. So like I say here, this is based on wealth. It is not applicable to all. Okay. Now, your first starting point in your financial plan. Do you have 6 months of emergency expenses? This is that liquidity part. And this is why I was saying a little while earlier, the first thing to do is calculate the amount of money that you need, those bills which cannot be deferred, which have to be paid. Calculate for 1 month, multiply by 6, get the amount of that, and that is the emergency expenses which you require. Start with saving in a bank till you have 6 months of expenses. इसको build up करने का तरीका यही है. Cannot be done overnight. Then the next part here is dependents आपके हैं, और अगर हैं तो कितने हैं? How many dependents do you have? Then next thing, I'm making a general statement here which you should not misunderstand. I'm saying that you do not need life insurance. You need term life insurance. Okay, why am I saying this? Because term life insurance will provide the greatest protection for the smallest premium. कितना हमारा होना चाहिए? What should be the amount of this policy? It should be basically enough till the age of 60. That means if there is only one income earner in the family, एक ही सदस्य है परिवार का जो पैसा कमा रहा है, और उसके अभी से लेके उसके रिटायरमेंट तक जितने साल भी बाकी है, the family is dependent on this person. If this person for some reason expires, तो फैमिली के पास में सोर्स ऑफ इनकम नहीं है. टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस का क्या बेनिफिट है कि फॉर अ वेरी स्मॉल प्रीमियम यू गेट अ वेरी बिग कवर. यू कैन गेट अ कवर इन क्रोर्स. द पर्पस इज वेरी सिंपल, दैट when if this person has an untimely death, तो फैमिली के पास में एक सर्टेन कॉर्पस ऑफ मनी होगा जिसको कि वो इन्वेस्ट करके उसके इंटरेस्ट पर वो लोग अपना डे टू डे एक्सपेंसेस मैनेज कर सकते हैं till such time as some other member in the family begins to earn. So term life में what is the other side of term life? The premium is low for one simple reason, कि if the person does not expire and the policy term comes to an end, then nothing is paid to the person. जो प्रीमियम आपने दिया वो वापस आपको नहीं होगा in most term life insurance policies, or at least in pure term life insurance policies. तो do not think about that as money down the drain, कि ये हम गलत कर रहे हैं ऐसे जगह में डाल के जहां पैसे हमें वापस नहीं मिलेंगे. The biggest thing it will give you is, it will give you a huge amount of protection for the family, for all dependents, till such time as they begin to earn. अगर 30 साल तक टर्म लाइफ रहा तो 30 साल में you will become financially strong. Other members in the family will begin to earn. By that time you don't need your term life insurance. वो खत्म हो जाएगा. We don't need it anymore. और जो सेविंग आपको कहां पर होगी? The amount you will save in the premium. The amount I'll show you later on when we do insurance. It is a huge amount. और वो जो सेविंग आपका होता है प्रीमियम में, that you can use to invest in something else. You can go for mutual funds, you can go for anything you feel that is proper. So this is the next thing that you need to look at. Then you have to look at this, health insurance. आज के दिन में in case of need, medical expenses बहुत ज्यादा हो जाता है, particularly if it requires some sort of surgical procedure in a hospital. अगर वो हॉस्पिटल में रहना पड़ा और सर्जिकल प्रोसीजर वगैरह हुआ तो इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी वेरी एक्सपेंसिव अफेयर, और उसके लिए आप प्रिपेयर नहीं हो सकते. Therefore it is necessary to have this. तो ये बहुत छोटा सा अगर आप कवर लेते हैं तो इट विल बी फॉर एटलीस्ट 5 lakhs. तो दिस आई थिंक फैमिली फ्लोटर का मतलब हुआ एनीबडी इन द फैमिली जिसका नाम अपने इंश्योरेंस कंपनी को दिया हुआ है, इफ दैट पर्सन फॉल्स सिक and whatever expenses are there by the hospital, that will be covered by the policy. उसके बाद एक इसमें टॉप अप प्लान्स होते हैं जो कि आपको जैसे 5 lakhs हो गया +10. तो once again, health insurance premiums generally are not very low. So this will depend on the amount of money you can spare for this. Lekin whatever is the amount you can spare, there should always be a health insurance. This is one necessary thing. In case you want to read more about this, I would suggest you try this book. Deepak Shenoy, Money Wise. I think I have a copy of the book out here. You can have a look at this. Okay. So it's a nice book. It will give you a good idea about all these things which I have written here in more detail. It will help you to do that. Then, continuing with the financial plan, do you have children? Then this question comes. School expenses, idea is to pay from your salary, from your income. College expenses will at some point come, or that will be a big one. अगर कोई टेक्निकल एजुकेशन या मेडिकल एजुकेशन वाली बात अगर आ जाती है इसमें, there will always be a substantial amount to be paid. Therefore, you will have to estimate and increase it by rate of inflation till the child turns 18. आज के दिन में अगर कोई कॉलेज में एडमिशन होता तो कितना लगता है, और अभी से लेके जब तक the child is 18 years old, obviously those are going to increase. तो आप slowly उसको बढ़ा के आप सोचिए कि क्या होगा. That will be your goal. वो एक लॉन्ग टर्म गोल इमीडिएटली आ जाएगा कि दिस अमाउंट ऑफ मनी आई रिक्वायर. नॉर्मली द रूल इज लाइक दिस कि अगर आप चाइल्ड को 18 पहुंचने में 10 साल से ज्यादा है, then your investment should be in an SIP which is based on equity. अगर आपके पास में 5 और 10 साल के बीच में टाइम है, just imagine a situation where the child is between 8 and 13 years old. Then 70% equity, 30% debt. इस तरह का सेविंग होगा आपका. 1 to 5 years अगर है तो 30% इक्विटी, 70% डेट. और अगर 1 साल से भी कम है तब तो not manage to build up too much. तब whatever you do, you will have to do in debt only. And remember, debt pays less risk, less return. Equity may higher risk, but when you invest in equity for a long period of time, that risk comes down. This is the thing to remember out here. How much do you need to retire? This is the next big question which comes here. To estimate how much you need, there is a thumb rule. Number of years to retirement multiplied by annual expenditures multiplied by 3. This is just some financial planners have suggested that this is one way. I have, let us say, 25 years to retirement. आज हमारा annual expenditure is 5 lakhs. So basically what he is saying is कि 25 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 3. Say it will be something like this, multiplied by 5 multiplied by 3. So basically it will come to something like 3 crores 75 lakhs. Years to retire and has annual expenses of rupees 12 lakhs. He will need 20 into 12 into 3, 4.32 crores. This, because why is it so high? Because उस समय तक the value of the rupee also will be much less, because every year there is inflation. अभी फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आप अभी का देखें तो फूड इन्फ्लेशन अभी काफी ज्यादा है, and despite everything that is not coming down too much. So every time you go and buy food stuff, this आपको immediately लगता होगा कि कीमतें जो हैं वो बढ़ी हुई हैं. This is there. Then the next question is this: do you have loans? जो इंश्योरेंस आपका है, it should cover the loan amount. That means in case the person who has taken loans expires, whatever loans that person has should be paid from the insurance amount. A situation where a family which has lost its earning member also has to pay loans, repay loans, is not something which should happen at all. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. So broadly speaking, this is what we are talking about. ठीक है? So planning का जो part है, it starts here. This exercise has to be done, and then you can give it a personal touch depending on your own particular situation, your inclinations, but it will have to cover all these elements which we have touched. Starting from building up that emergency fund, that is something I feel that everybody has to do. कोई option नहीं है. Now, the simple logic in financial planning is that no matter what your situation is, you will have to treat saving as a necessity. It is not I have income, I have expenses. If I save something, I will put it in a mutual fund. It cannot be like that. It has to be that I have income, a certain amount I'll take out and first put into saving, and then I will try to manage with the rest. That is the only way this is going to work. Otherwise, if you keep the money around, you will spend it. Particularly in the early stages when the money is less. So this is the first part of it. Now let's go to the next aspect, is risk. What is your personal risk thing like? So risk profile, you make a risk profile. A risk profile, there are two things which you are required to do. You look at an individual's risk capacity, माने आपका risk capacity, and your risk tolerance. These are the two things. अगर जो financial planners होते हैं जो इसको as a profession ले लेते हैं, then those persons have to look at this from the point of view of their client. Any investment goals requires that a certain amount of risk has to be taken. First thing you have to remember. Now, if you want a return, there will be a risk. There is no return without risk. If the required level of risk is not taken, it would lead to a lower return and non-achievement of your objective. आपका जो भी goals है, उतने पैसे बचाने के लिए एक सर्टन लेवल ऑफ रिस्क आपको लेना ही है. अगर आप बहुत कम रिस्क लेते हैं, सपोज कीजिए यू ट्राई कि आई विल नॉट टेक एनी रिस्क एट ऑल, आई विल पुट एवरीथिंग इन द बैंक, देन इन दैट केस द रिस्क इज यू विल नॉट मीट योर गोल. लो रिस्क, लो रिटर्न, दिस इज वन पार्ट. इसमें बेसिक पॉइंट इज दिस कि रिटर्न इज लोअर देन रिक्वायर्ड. आपको अपने गोल्स को मीट करने के लिए जितना चाहिए उससे कम है आपका. High risk, high return, but high risk may be beyond your tolerance limit. So we'll come to this tolerance part. So the level of risk required to be taken depends on risk capacity, रिस्क कैपेसिटी क्या है? इज द लेवल ऑफ फाइनेंशियल रिस्क द क्लाइंट कैन अफोर्ड टू टेक और यू कैन अफोर्ड टू टेक. This will depend on the income and savings of the client together with his liabilities. The basic point इसमें ये है कि you have to think कि ये हमारा, अगर मैं कहीं पैसे लगाता हूं और इसमें से कुछ पार्ट डूब जाता है, it's a risky proposition. I don't get back as much as I had invested. So will I be able to tolerate that loss? क्या हमारा फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन ऐसा है कि उसको हम बर्दाश्त कर सकेंगे? कैन आई टॉलरेट दैट लॉस? इफ आई कैन टॉलरेट दैट लॉस, then you will say that you have the risk capacity to do it. The other area is the risk tolerance part, is the level of risk you are comfortable with. This is a personal thing. See, risk capacity depends on your income. It depends on the amount of, let's say, savings that you have, the amount you are expecting to inherit, जो family wealth है, वो सब चीज इसमें आ जाता है. If all that is good and you have a substantial amount of money, then your risk capacity will be good. That means कि you can lose more money without actually putting yourself into a financially bad situation. लॉस हुआ तो हुआ, आपके अंदर इतनी दम है कि आप उसको बर्दाश्त कर सकते हैं. That is capacity. Tolerance is your personal thing. There are some people who are okay with risk. वो रिस्क ले सकते हैं, उनका उस तरह का नेचर है, और कुछ है जो कि बिल्कुल इसमें रिस्क लेना नहीं चाहते. जब मैं पढ़ाता था यहाँ कॉलेज में, तो वहां पर एक बार क्लास में मैंने पोलिंग एक किया कि आप लोग सब सेम एज ग्रुप के हैं, आप लोग को what would you like to invest in? Would you like to go for stocks? Would you like to go for mutual funds? Assuming कि stocks are the riskiest, mutual fund कम है, और would you like to go for bank deposits जहां risk lowest? Despite the fact कि I was talking to a group of people who are in their late teens or just past 20, early 20s आप कह लो. Despite that, the position was that a certain number of them said that no sir, we cannot go for high risk. हमारे जो पैसे होंगे, I will always put it into a bank. I cannot think of a situation where my hard-earned money will be lost because I put it in the wrong investment vehicle. गलत जगह हमने डाल दिया और वो पैसे जो है वो वापस मेरे नहीं आए, मैंने बहुत मेहनत करके कमाए थे. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. दिस फेलो वाज सेइंग, इट वाज 22 years old. बहुत लोगों ने उसे बहुत चिढ़ाया इसके लिए, बट ही सेड नो. So this is a very good example of risk tolerance. So this is a person who is saying that this will be my approach whether I have the capacity or not. He is not linking it with capacity. यहां पर एक डिफरेंट इशू है कि आई डू नॉट वांट टू लूज मनी. तो ब्रॉडली दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन योर two things, the capacity and the tolerance. But what if there is a mismatch between risk capacity and risk tolerance? तब क्या होगा कि भाई आपके पास में कैपेसिटी बहुत है लेकिन आपका टॉलरेंस लेवल बहुत लो है. ऐसे केसेस में बहुत ज्यादा नुकसान तो नहीं होगा, लेकिन थिंक ऑफ द अदर, और द दूसरा सिनेरियो कि आपकी कैपेसिटी है कम लेकिन आपका टॉलरेंस बहुत ज्यादा है, आपके पास में वो गैम्बलर वाला इंस्टिंक्ट है. फिर तो बहुत रिस्की खेल है नहीं है, बिकॉज देन यू विल टेक रिस्क विदाउट हैविंग द कैपेसिटी, एंड इफ दैट हैपेंस then you can put yourself into a lot of trouble. This is we will end this here on this risk profiling thing, and then tomorrow we will start with different types of assets, different types of investments. and we'll continue from there. ठीक है? Any
Right, sir.
questions? ठीक. Deepti, are you here?
Yes,
Okay
sir.
then.
Yes.
So did you find the class very boring today, or not useful, or did you get something out of it? Especially the financial planning part.
Yes, sir. It is interesting. It's not boring.
Thank you for that. So we'll meet again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Sir, bye.